to another version of the Business Renovator. I'm a few minutes late. I'm on a new platform. And this will be some of the connecting of the dots that will be coming up for me. Anyway, let's get started. If I can find my props, I want to start off today with the with this little quote from Customer Delight 365. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, according to Leonardo da Vinci. Brian, the author of Customer Delight 365, Brian Monahan, he says, are you going to question Da Vinci, one of the greatest minds of an artist of all time? When it comes to customer delight, don't confuse simplicity with lack. Some of the best and greatest work is the purest pursuit of simple. For your customer, simple might be a lifetime of experience serving that customer. What is the one thing you can do today to simplify your product or service? Simply delight. Well, as I go through this new platform, I'm consciously incompetent with this particular platform. It's got a lot of promise. I'm looking forward to leveraging it in a more effective way so that I show up on time. Somebody was questioning me, where is Phil, on my in my Facebook community? And Phil was doing a great presentation. It went on for about 11 minutes. And it was probably one of the best ones I've ever heard myself say. However, nobody else heard it because there was one more click to opportunity to share my stream today. So connecting the dots is a fascinating thing. It's really kind of a challenge to connect the dots moving forward, except for in a book I read by Brian Tracy. And in his book, it's called Many Miles to Go. And it was probably the first book that I know that he wrote. And it's his recollection of leaving Canada and going to South Africa. And they were going to do it on bicycles. Okay, so there's a little bit of water in between. So there are some lessons to learn along the way. And Brian talked about that. And I suppose if I was to interview Brian and ask him about the dots that connected for him, there would be a whole bunch that would be relevant to things that he did and whatnot. So I'm not Brian, and I have not had that interview. But in his book, he talks about the oil barrels across the Sahara Desert. And every mile, there's a 5-gallon, or maybe it's 50-gallon oil barrel. And that would be a navigational point to help you know where to go. Reading his book is quite impressive in terms of the lessons that he learned as a result of that trip, from thinking that him and his buddies were going to travel to South Africa on bicycles through the desert. Well, they survived it. They did do that, but it wasn't quite as straightforward and as easy as that. And the contentions between the 2 or 3 other friends he was traveling with, it's well worth the read. But I wanted to start off in my own journey thinking about Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci came into my life, I think either in middle school or high school. And we were given an assignment to write an essay on somebody out of history. And we weren't given any parameters other than that. So I opened up Encyclopedia Britannica probably at that time because we didn't have Google. Well, that was our Google, I suppose. Anyway, I stumbled into him and I became fascinated the more I learned about him. He did a lot of things in a very short period of time. He was born in 1452 and passed away in May of 1519. He was an artist, a musician, an architect, a scientist, inventor, dreamer, a whole bunch of different things. A couple of things that I know that I've seen in my studying of him that he's created was, and I don't think he ever built them, but he had drawings, just like a blueprint, except for they weren't blue, they were more like sepia color, but a parachute and a helicopter. So way back then he passed away in the early 1500s. So sometime before then, the helicopter and parachute were already being considered. So what's that got to do with joining the dots? Well, it's got everything to do with joining the dots for me. And for me, joining the dots is all about my life journey. And if we think about Steve Jobs, he's got a quote here. See if I can bring it up and share it on the screen. Keep your fingers crossed. Here he is. He's coming up. So Steve Jobs says you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. Think about that for a minute. What are your dots? What are the things that you've done, failed at, but because you failed at it, you learned something and you were able to move beyond that to another place, another level, another competency. Your confidence was increased. Think about that. I think about that a lot. And in my coaching practice and training practice, I am a really big fan of looking back at the dots that we have in our life and what we've created and where we've come from. And the way I help people tie into their dots and find some of the things that they perhaps forgot about is to do a 100 success list exercise in one sitting. Go back from the time you jumped into this world, you were born, to where you are today, and listing all of the things that you have done that you may have forgotten about. And there's some real great psychological rationalization for doing this, is because Dr. Bandura, who was the father of self-efficacy, which is really what looking back at the dots can help you increase, which is really just your causative power. How can you make more stuff happen? How can you become more and living into your potential instead of being an underachiever, as one of my mentors describes it as? Well, one way is to do this list and go back and wallow in the successes that you've had, the triumphs that you've overcome, the failures that showed up and taught you a lesson. And because of that, you became a little bit better, brighter and sharper, smarter even. Certainly have a lot more experience. And it's in that space where you actually get to, if I've done that, what else can I do? It served me very, very well. So just to give you an idea, besides the Da Vinci essay that I've done, when I left school, high school, I went into the printing business, and I didn't start as a printer. I started out as a delivery guy. And my job was to do all the grunt work, sweep the floors, do a lot of bindery. And eventually I learned how to be a pressman, a camera operator, a stripper. Okay, and that's not the kind of stripper you may be thinking of. I certainly didn't do any of that kind of dancing. But a stripper in the printing business back then was somebody who actually did the pre-work to get it ready to go to press. So you would have the artwork, you take a shot of it, create a negative, a film, and then you take that film and put it on a mask, and then you would strip it out. So you would cut out the area that you wanted the light to penetrate through to burn onto the plate, so that the plate then would be processed, could be put on the press, and then you could print over and over and over and over. So that's what a stripper was. So don't panic. I didn't do any of that X-rated stuff. I've met some interesting people who have taken that path and learned a lot from them in their stories as well. It's been pretty fascinating, but not me. From that journey, though, I met a lot of people because I went from the ground level to eventually being one of the partners, and we formed a company, and actually it still exists today. The youngest of the four partners is still running it and doing okay with it. Just not where I want it to be, but I did learn a lot about business and manufacturing, people, sales, marketing. I learned all that stuff. But at the age I was in my late 20s, mid 20s, late 20s. I didn't think I had the confidence or credibility in the eyes of the two senior partners. And I felt we were working way too hard for way too little. And because of the other people I got to meet, they saw some things in me that I thought I had potential in, but I wasn't sure. So those people mentored me into helping me get to where I am today. So through that path, I ended up setting a goal to become part of a company that manufactures new homes. And it wasn't just any company; it was the one that I wanted to be with. It was the largest one in Canada, and probably number 4 in North America. It was one of those companies that people were seeking out to try and become part of that organization. It was that kind of a company where they cared about the people more than they cared about the money. And unfortunately, because of that, and some investments they had made, and the interest rates went to 21% in the early 80s, it was difficult for people to buy a house, even though they wanted to. They couldn't qualify for a mortgage. Think about it, 21% interest rates. It was very challenging for many people. So because of that, they're no longer with us. But that's okay. That's just one of the dots along the way of my journey, which took me into car sales, I believe. I went to work for a GM dealership, and the sales manager there knew that I liked the personal development side of things, which is kind of the journey I was on from the time I decided to sell my shares in the print shop. And I said, yeah, I do like that stuff. So he gave me a ticket to this Phoenix seminar. And little did I know who Brian Tracy was at the time. But I really enjoyed the Phoenix seminar. It was all about self-development, making change. And the reason it was called the Phoenix seminar was because the Phoenix rose from the ashes to become something bigger and brighter than what it was. So that's helped me along the way. And if I fast forward to today, about 14 years ago, I bought a franchise that's powered by Brian Tracy, which is kind of cool because now I'm immersed in a lot of his content and great ideas. He's written 80 books, and I don't know how many training programs he's done over the last 40 years of his existence in this space. But I am now a franchise owner, a business coach, training facilitator of Brian's materials and others, as well as a coach mentor to other franchisees. It's been a really exciting journey, and I look forward to more of it with the same organization. Backing up again to some of the dots, another path was I learned about how computers work, and working with large corporations, like global corporations. I worked with a company called Unisys. So what's the big deal about that? Well, it's all the things I learned along the way. The people I met, the different ethnicities, the different cultures, different colors of skin, different levels of expertise, multilingual people. Like one of the guys I met, 5 languages. I can't remember all the languages: English, French, Norwegian. Matter of fact, because he knew so many languages, when the '88 Olympics were here, he was the translator for the Finnish hockey team. It's pretty fascinating. Learn a ton of stuff from those people. And when we go back and look at where we've come from, at the dots we've stopped at or come along our way, and put them into 100 success lists, it elevates your energy, especially if you're focusing on it on a regular basis. Not to become braggadocious, actually, you become more humble because you realize you've learned some stuff, but there's so much more to learn. That's kind of really where I wanted to get to with today's talk, and I wanted to test out this new platform. And the first time around, I did a really good talk. It was the best I've ever heard, according to me, because nobody else is going to hear it. It was a practice run. It was, as one of my buddies says in Atlanta, he said it was the off-Broadway rendition. So right now, I'm closer to Broadway because I'm on this new platform, trying to figure out its ins and outs and where everything is. I'm getting better at it. So I want to play a video just because it tells you a little bit about what we do at Focal Point, and it's my franchise, and I'm sponsoring these things. So here, have watch this. See if I can make this video work on this new streaming platform I'm at. All right, where is it? It's hiding on me. No, it's not. Apparently, it's not. It's not in this version. Oh, this is so much fun. I am consciously incompetent with this particular platform. I don't think it's that difficult. It's just things are in a different place than what I'm accustomed to. One more try with the video. Nope, it's not here. Hey, I'm going to try something live. I'm going to try this right away. I'm putting the video in place. So while I'm waiting for my sponsor to show up, if you want to hear more from the Business Renovator, and cool, here's the video. I'm going to play it for you right now. I've got 3 versions of it. Okay, here we go. Well, that worked really well. So thanks for being here. If you liked anything you heard about the dots, share this out. It's Yeah, share it out. If you're watching this on the replay, let me know. Hashtag replay. That would be cool. And remember, you are wonderful, and spell wonderful with a U instead of O, because you know why? You are wonderful.